buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.TV. I'm your host, Ron Stevens, and I am your host for the next 2 hours. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank the people in the chat. They always make it interesting. If you haven't been in the chat and you want to converse with some of the people in the chat, it's really simple. Just go to UCY.TV and hit chat, and you too can participate. I'm going to just run through some news and stuff for a little bit here. And this was in the Globe and Mail, I don't know, a couple weeks back or whenever. And the headline is, at least 374 people have received assisted death, survey shows. Survey says 374 people have received assisted death. In Canada, in the last 10 months. And while that's a headline, what the newspapers don't tell you is that everyone is receiving assisted death. It doesn't have to be about end of life death. You're all receiving assisted death. Assisted suicide, because you're all being suicided. That's all to do with saving the planet and reducing the carbon emitters, that would be you, down to a level at which you don't threaten Mother Earth any longer. I'm so sick of this garbage, man. Anyways, the point is that, you know, there was a headline a couple years back in the Toronto Star saying, while your grandparents lived to be quite old for the most part, no one will live that long anymore. And that's exactly true. They want the life expectancy down. So through your food, which is completely adulterated, your water, your air, and I'm not talking about carbon emissions, I'm talking about the shit they're spraying out of the planes. Earlier and earlier, we've all seen the headlines, people who would maybe get Alzheimer's when they're 80, now they're saying that they're getting Alzheimer's in their late 40s, early 50s. Well, that ain't normal. Of course, it's not normal. So this idea, there's a lot of controversy about assisted suicide, but what people don't understand is that your government is suiciding you anyways and on purpose. All one has to do is look at the cancer rates and some of these other maladies that are affecting people, i.e. the earlier and earlier Alzheimer's, and the vaccines are weakening people's natural immune systems. How do you boost your immune system with a needle? No. Eat real food. Get some exercise. But that's not what they're telling you. They're telling you need more needles, and that will help your immune system. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Learn to understand what you're reading. Anyways, over here on the Toronto Sun, I very rarely ever read anything. In fact, I don't know if I've ever read anything from the Toronto Sun. Maybe I have. Toronto Star being a left-wing paper, and the Toronto Star being a right-wing paper. Two boots on the same tyrannical system, playing off two different mind thoughts. But it's the same game. Anyways, I bring up hydro because the police disconnected my hydro for speaking out against the fraud, and Andre was on last night from Terrace Bay, and the same thing happened to him and his family up north, and I'm sure it's happened to many, many different people who have spoke up. The police are not there to protect you. They're there to protect the corporation and the corporation's interests, period, and use you at the same time as a revenue generating stream. And so they're not there to help you. They are there specifically to harm you, and if you should speak up, to stomp on you as necessary until you submit. And I want to say how thankful I am that people are submitting less all the time. And to all of those people out there who have maybe just had something happen to them that made them finally go, what the hell is going on here anyways? And to take a serious look at what we're up against. My hat's off to all those people, because it's a big jump from believing the life you were leading was normal to realizing the whole thing's been a total fraud. It's a big jump. It's a big step. A lot of people have a very, very difficult time accepting the fact that basically they've been lied to since the day they were born. So for those people who have stepped up to the plate and are trying to encourage their neighbors and friends to actually sit down and think, don't ever submit. Okay, you have a job to do. You've been chosen to do the job. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me by who. But this is a spiritual, psychological war that we're in, and we need some strong people. Only the strong can strengthen the weak, period. And so we have a very important job to do. Anyways, this story is beyond ridiculous, but it's not a surprise. It says here that hydro headaches, hydro report cards leave consumers peeved. Now, we know that with these smart meters, they are another, like Windows 10, they are a system which keeps an eye on you. And when I was talking to the CAO, God, it's got to be 10 years ago now, when they were first setting up this amalgamated electrical system here in Ontario, which is basically the same thing that's going on everywhere, sold as a public-private partnership so that it would be cheaper, more efficient, yada, 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 when exactly the whole thing was just to sell it off into private hands. And they want to make a profit, and the only place to make a profit is out of your pocket. And so that's why your hydro rates are going up, along with the idea that they have to pay off these people that are invested in so-called renewable energy that was set up so that they get a guaranteed return on their investment, which means, well, the less high electricity you use, the higher the rates have to go in order to facilitate the guaranteed return on investment for the criminals. Anyway, so now it gets worse. As I was telling the CEO some 10 years ago, I said, these things are set up to spy on people's homes. And the CEO said, well, not right now. Well, no, but you just got to change the chip out. Well, yeah, but we're not doing it right now, but we are going to do it. And, one of the reasons your appliances, they used to make appliances that would last 30, 40 years. In fact, I still have a fridge that was built in I think it was 1956. I don't have it anymore. It's in my brother-in-law's garage. But he said it's super efficient, hardly uses any electricity. It's an old McClary, really thick door, really thick walls. And cold as all get out. Best beer fridge he's ever had. And that thing was built, I believe, in 1956. And I got that fridge originally, I think, in around early 80s. So that fridge has been banged around. I dropped it off the truck once. Thought I smashed it, but all I did was put a little dent in the front of the door. And then it went out to the cottage for a beer fridge. We were setting the shed out there. And then it went to my other brother-in-law's place, to his garage for a beer fridge. And now it's my other brother-in-law's place for a beer fridge. And nobody has ever turned a wrench on that fridge. And it's still purring away. Nowadays, the general life cycle of an appliance is somewhere in the vicinity of 7 years. How is that possible? They're telling us that we have to use less resources in that, but these are all throwaway appliances. Why are they throwaway appliances? Because they don't want them to last, because they want to put in the spyware into your appliances so that the smart meter can tell what you're running, when you're running it, and so on and so forth. And it's time we go get our hydro system back. It's our hydro system. We built it. Anyways, this is a story. Ontario ratepayers aren't pleased at receiving report cards from their providers that judge them on their energy consumption and even compare them to their neighbors. You never hear anything. You never hear them say anything about the cuts they'll make at hydro to reduce the costs, said Earl Warren from Kemptville, Ontario. Now they send out all of these. I don't know what that's going. In 2014, Hydro One launched a pilot project to mail out their version of what's being called a home energy report. But now it's in full swing, and it's one of the latest buildings. Now it's in full swing, and as of the latest billing cycle, almost half of their approximately 1 million customers are receiving these mailings, and they arrive separately from regular bills and other notices. The report compares the recipient's consumption to efficient neighbors and all neighbors, and then gives you a score. Warren's report, which he provided to the Sun, rates him as good for consuming 667 kilowatts the previous month. The efficient neighbors clocked in at 607 kilowatts, while the naughty neighbors average 1,150. The letter still judges Warren's comparatively low usage, stating you use 10% more electricity than your efficient neighbors. I'm sure we can figure this out for ourselves, but whether your bill goes up or down each month, Linda Sherham from Ottawa writes, and the cost of them buying the paper, hiring someone to do the household usage audits, and the cost of postage could all be put to better use, perhaps lowering the rates. But Hydro One is spinning a different way. The program is fully funded by independent electricity system operator. The senior media relations advisor for Hydro One explains to me each report costs $2.30. We send on average 4 per customer per year. But once a customer appears to have achieved maximum savings, they wouldn't get a report each quarter. Hydro One calculated during the pilot project the mailing saved ratepayers on average $25 per year. This totaled $2.5 million savings to the consumers and 14 million fewer kilowatts used. But they actually have no way of knowing for sure if the mailings actually cause these reductions. They're just seeing a reduction in usage in the people who are getting the letters and are assuming that the grades school style admonishments are what caused it. Now, that's a brilliant statement. You know, they're assuming that the grade school style admonishments are what caused it. And that's exactly what we've been held in the position of children. You know, the people here aren't necessarily ticked off. You know, they're saying, well, you know, sending out these letters costs money. They could do it better by not sending them out and dropping the rates. They don't get it. Canadians are inherently oblivious to reality. And to get most Canadians to even attempt to grasp reality is a difficult process. They really do not seem to have the capacity to actually stand up and say, you know, we're going to throw all you pricks in jail. Okay, because this whole hydro thing is a complete and total fraud. No, don't do that. And I think it's because they're being treated like, Canadians are treated like grade school children, always have been. And once you get the mind to that position, you can pretty much do what you want with the people. They were taught in school, that was the whole point of school, is that you do not question and you always bow to authority. So now you have full-grown adults being sent these grade school hydro checks to say, listen, Susie or Billy, you were bad last month. You were a bad boy or girl. You used more electricity than your efficient brown-nosing neighbor, you know, little Sammy or Sally, the brown-noser in the grade school that would squeal on the rest of the students in order to suck up to the authority. This is exactly what's going on. Nothing's changed. You're children. Now grow the hell up. This is so sad. The IESO describes the neighbor comparison even more bizarrely as social benchmarking. Okay? Yet in their description of the project, which is also used by providers other than Hydro One, the recipients do have the ability to opt out, but no, it doesn't mean you get to keep that $230 cost. It costs yourself. People do like to see how they net out, Rosa says, noting they received possible feedback on the report cards. If that's true, I certainly haven't heard it. Ontarians have called in to say it's condescending, and it's not like they need to be told to bring down their usage. They're already doing everything they can. We don't turn the lights on, says another woman who called in to complain about the report cards. We do the laundry at night. We follow all the rules the government wants us to follow. It's hard to put food on the table, and then we get these report cards. I don't know what else they expect from us. Do they expect us to live in the dark? Yes, they expect you to live in the dark. You know, we're doing everything they tell us to do on the report cards. We're doing everything they tell us to do. We're staying up doing laundry at night, and we can't even buy food now because we've got all these hydro bills to pay. Do they want us to live in the dark? Absolutely. Because you're the problem. It's not just your hydro bill, the fact you exhale CO2 is the problem. So now what we need to do is send out report cards so that you people start bringing down your breathing patterns so you only exhale half as often as you normally would. And if you don't, we'll send you a report card that your blue neighbor, because they rarely ever breathe anymore, is doing a much better job at curtailing their exhaling of CO2, which of course is absolutely devastating to the planet. When the hell are people going to wake up to the simple thing? Go ahead, people. Just try saying it. It's all a fraud. And now they're coming after your water. Okay? And this is the idea of Maurice Strong saying, will they do it? Will they do it? No, they won't do it is the conclusion. So therefore, we're going to force them to do what we want them to do. Okay? And how do you force somebody to use less of something? You drive the price up till they can't afford to use it. So you got all these people across this land in America and everywhere else in the West sacrificing this, that, and the other thing so they can afford their hydro bills. They don't turn lights on anymore. They put these ugly white light bulbs in their homes. And they're consumed by trying to save electricity. And the next one on the hit list is your water. They want a 75% reduction in your water usage. How are they going to do that? Price point it. Why do you think you got a water meter? Okay, so now you're going to start getting letters down the road here about water consumption. Instead of having a shower when you get up in the morning before you get your day going, you're going to do that once a week. You're going to wear your clothes longer and dirtier before you wash them. And between your hydro bill and your water bill, you won't be able to afford to live in your own home, and that's the final plan. What's not sustainable? Private property is not sustainable. Because this is all about social reengineering. And the idea there on your home, why is my home not sustainable? Well, it's simple. If you own a home and your neighbor doesn't, there's a possibility you could profit from your investment. And socially, that puts you in a better position than the one that's just paying rent. And therefore, they say home ownership is a form of social injustice. So the plan is to drive you out of your homes and turn you into a corporate rent slave. And it's about time people deal with some of these realities instead of giving these pussy whoop freaking excuses of why they're not standing up. Well, I'm doing everything they told me to do and we still can't afford a hydro bill. Get out of your grade school mentality, please. Hydro rates increase minor hockey cost. We've got all kinds of Ontario power users at wit's end. Now here's a lunatic thing. I'm going to take this right now. Horwath, or whatever the hell, however you pronounce her name, the NDP leader in Ontario here, says give $2.6 billion hydro cash to the people. Ontario NDP leader Andre Horwath talks about skyrocketing hydro rates as Greater Sudbury resident Marseille Gerceau and MPP Francis Giuliani's and look at it on in Sudbury. Now, in case the NDP leader doesn't realize this is what makes me want to puke. People go and they go, help us, help us, help us. Won't somebody help us? So the NDP leader steps in, I'll help you. Well, you can't help anybody because you're not in power. But when you were in power, the NDP, who started this horse shit? Who started it? The NDP. Bob Rae, the godson of Maurice Strong, one of the more evil pieces of meat that ever landed on this planet. Bob Rae appointed his godfather, Maurice Strong, to restructure hydro. And who wants you to live in the dark? Morris Strong and the boys. So it was the NDP that got the ball rolling here through Morris Strong. And now the people are going to the NDP asking them to help them with their hydro problems. Duh. I mean, if people completely lost their frickin' feeble little minds, we see this over and over and over. Anyways, the story on this one goes, I've been dumpster diving. A 59-year-old woman from Uxbridge called in to tell me my credit cards are all maxed out. I have 3 trying to pay my hydro bills. I work really hard, she says, yes, yet she's had to throw away her washer and dryer, doesn't have a dishwasher or television, and certainly doesn't use air conditioning. I feel like we've been thrown to the wolves. We've been abandoned in this country, she says. This is just one of the very real stories about the hardships in Ontario caused by skyrocketing energy prices. Is anyone listening? Is anyone going to do anything about it? Well, Ontario NDP leader Andrea Horwath promises she's listening. She's heard the same sorts of stories, and I've been hearing from readers and wants actions. This has to be the number one priority, she told me Thursday. And the Hamilton Centre MPP certainly doesn't think the news that the Liberals have altered the HST on home heating, which was passed in the legislature on Wednesday, is the end of our energy woes. It's not a permanent removal of the HST. She points out what we've done is given a rebate. It's not the same as taking it off. We shouldn't be paying provincial sales tax on a necessity. She also points out that there's $2.6 billion worth of tax rebates sitting on the books and on Hydro One's latest annual report. She doesn't want that money going to the shareholders of the company. She wants the Ontario Energy Board to instruct to give it back to the people, to the ratepayers. Well, the Ontario Energy Board, which this whole scam started with Morris Strong, then it landed in the hands of Enron, and I don't know if he's still there. He was there when this new system was put together. Ali Dadson, who was a major player as a go-between, as an Enron lobbyist, go-between the Provincial Ministry of Energy and Ken Lay down in Houston, Texas, actually flying down the premier of the province and the Minister of Energy down to Enron's head office as they set this scam up. But the leader of the NDP seems not to know anything about this. To ask the Ontario Energy Board to do anything, the Ontario Energy Board was created, as all of these boards, these Soviets have been created, legislated into existence, but outside the reach of the Ministry of Energy and or the Premier's office and or anybody else in the province. So what happened after the Enron moved to mess us up? Where does Alex Dadson end up? He ends up as the Chief Operating Officer where? Over the Energy Board, the Ontario Energy Board. And of course the NDP leader wouldn't know any of this stuff. They're all playing the same game, and it is a destruction of your life. Horwath also wants the government to take another look at the energy contracts the province has signed, both the regular and the green ones. Now, let's have someone go through these private power deals and try to squeeze some value out of them, she said. On Wednesday, the OEB actually announced it wouldn't be permitting any rate increases this November. It's the first time there's been no increase since 2008. I fully agree with the NDP leader, and the timing was no coincidence. They like to call the OEB an independent decision maker, Horace says. That's absolutely not true. There is a clear sign that the OEB responds to political pressure. So let's apply more pressure. All we know after this announcement is that the sky high rates are going to stay the same for at least the next 6 months. They could still go up after that, and they would also handful of rebates available. There is a need for voices to be heard. Ratepayer Sandhu writes in food price increases, hydro and water bill increases. What are people to do? Well, people are not to go to their so-called elected officials bawling like a bunch of crybabies, asking the abuser to fix the problem. All that, the wife abuse syndrome. Okay, these are politicians are abusing the snot out of you, and then you run to the other politician. They're bugging us. They're putting our rates up all the time. What can you do about it? Well, they can't do anything about it because they're not in power, but they'll tell you that they will speak for you on your behalf, and they'll try to raise as much shit as possible to fix the problem, the very problem they created in the first place. So quit acting like grade school children. Give your head a shake. You know, we almost need to set up new schools throughout this country, adult schools where we drive the child out of the adult once and for all. Because that's the syndrome that is allowing these people to get away with what they're getting away with. Always little children running for someone to help them out. Help me, help me, help me. You know, and you can say, well, there's the evidence. It was the NDP that started this nonsense. Well, yeah, but that was a long time ago, so we'll forget about it. They're trying to help us now. What kind of logic is that? There's no logic at all. It's a little child speaking. At the bottom of this, it says, once again, I apologize for not returning all of your calls and emails, but I am definitely hearing you all out. You're not being ignored. Your story matters, and I'm also keeping a record of everything. Kathleen Wynne needs to understand this isn't politics as usual. Something very wrong is happening in Ontario right now. The very basics of public service are failing. I guess that's the NDP leader saying that. This idea, they like to call the OEB an independent decision maker, the leader of the NDP says. That's absolutely not true. Then she goes on to say this is a clear sign that the OEB responds to political pressure. So let's picture. The fact of the matter is, O leader of the NDP, is that nobody in this province can tell the OEB what to do. The OEB, which has been verified by the Minister of Energy and the Premier's office, is that nobody in this province can tell the OEB what to do. You can make suggestions to the OEB, but there is no political arm, there is no political mechanism that allows anyone to tell the OEB what to do. And I've said this before on the show, and it was verified by both the Premier's office and the Minister of Energy's office. Is that both the Premier and the Minister of Energy could get on the horn and call a distribution unit. That's the ones that supposedly supply your energy, which they don't. All they are is collection agencies. But both the Premier and the Minister of Energy can call the lowest employee on the rung in that office after getting a gazillion complaints from the people who are being harmed by this fraud. Then the Minister and the Premier can say, hi, this is the Minister and the Premier, and we're calling about complaints on hydro abuses, police actually attending cutoffs under the guise of keeping the peace, but actually, and I've had that experience, of actually being in charge of the disconnection, not standing back, but actually the ones giving direction to the employees. The employees never speak. They're the ones that stand off in the background waiting for the okay from the police. So this is all horseshit, but the lowest employee can tell both the Minister of Energy and the Premier of the province to go F themselves, and there ain't a damn thing the Premier or the Minister of Energy can do about it. And that was verified to me by both of those officers. And here we have the leader of the NDP, who knows better. They like to call the OEB an independent decision maker. Who are they that likes to call them an independent decision maker? Would have to find that out. But to say that that's absolutely not true is an absolute lie. So let's put more political pressure on them. In other words, let's make suggestions to them. Because you don't have any political power. One, you're not in power. And two, the Premier and the Minister who are in power can't tell the OEB what to do. They can merely make suggestions. Because the OEB was legislated as a arm's length body. Or as I was told by the Premier's office, the OEB really isn't even in Ontario. Because nobody in Ontario can tell her what to do. And they legislate these things into place. The police force is legislated the same way. Absolutely the same way. You call a ministry that the OPP or the police are under, and you say, okay, the police are under your ministry. Yes. Okay. So what can you do about the police? Nothing. But I thought they were under your ministry. Well, they are. Then why can't you do anything? Well, because they're legislated in such a fashion, they're arm's length from the government. And there you have the police policing the police, and here you have the OEB, who's in charge of electricity rates, policing themselves. And it's the same as the Children's Aid Society, it's the same as, well, it just goes on and on and on. And that goes back to the New Despotism, written in 1929, I believe it was, by a high-up magistrate, whatever, in England, warning us about what was coming. Well, it's here, folks. It's here. And this is despotism. And they've been building on this a long, long time. And all you poor suckers that thought that you lived in the best country on the planet, well, hello. Hello. I warned people back in the 70s this is exactly what was going to happen. Once they get you all set up and they got you so brainwashed into believing that one of these two political parties, or maybe a third party like the NDP, is real democracy in action and the government cares about you, just look at the recent history. And if you somehow still believe that this Politico gives a rat's ass about you or your family, then you got your head too far up your ass. And you better extract it. You better get out there and take a whiff of the wind. Because that stench you smell is called tyranny. And it's not some other place. It's here. And it's always been here. But I said back in the 70s, that this is a benevolent dictatorship. But it's going to turn on you. And they're going to use so much effort teaching you that Canada is the best place in the world, the best governments in the world, the best of everything in the world. You won't know what to do when the shock comes. And apparently from reading these newspaper reports and that, the people don't have a clue how to deal with the shock. Okay, they've been just, as it said in there, they're grade school children. Run to the teacher. The same teacher that is the authority. They can make them go stand in the corner, or expel them, or speak down to them, or ostracize them in front of their other students, just like these grade school cards that they send out, these assessments. Well, Jimmy and Tammy, you've done good. You've tried to bring your electricity rates or your usage down, but when we compare you to the top of the class, you still have room for improvement. Now, we'd like you to try to buckle down, and if you'd like someone to help tutor you on how to live in the dark, we could probably supply that for you as well. We're here to help you do a better job, get a better grade. So that's what your school system was used for. It was not there to teach you anything of any use, of any knowledge that you could ever use. It was there to teach you how to be submissive. And I don't know another nation that is more submissive than this one. This nation has more resources per capita than any place on the planet. We're the second largest landmass nation on the planet. We have right down at the bottom of the list, the least number of people per square mile or square kilometer, however we want to do it, on the planet. And here we have people who can't keep a roof over their head, food on the table, can't keep lights on in their houses. Instead of looking around and going, why are we putting up with this crap? I don't think most Canadians have any capacity to even understand what this country should be, what it could be, what it needs to be. It needs to crawl out of the crib. It needs to take the diaper off. It needs to stand up. It needs to grow up. And we need to wipe this place clean of all this international political bullcrap that's being shoved down our throats. There isn't a community in this nation that is not driving down the international UN agendas into your homes. There isn't a school in this nation that is not brainwashing the children into believe absolute fallacies as truth. Not a one. And the people who set up the UN are the very same people that set up World War I, World War I, and World War II in order to create the United Nations and the State of Israel. These are the most evil people on the planet. And here you have your teachers teaching their doctrine. You have your municipalities driving their doctrine into your communities. You have the police force becoming community police, which is the international doctrine of policing. To say we're a nation anymore is foolhardy. We are a nation under the complete and total control of the most evil people on this planet. And somehow we can't come to terms with that. And I don't know why, other than you were taught in school to be submissive. But you got to get over that. You know, I've studied this a long time. You have David Suzuki saying our country's overpopulated. Now there's somebody ought to be in a rubber room. We're being run over. Everything they're doing is picking your pockets clean. You can't afford your hydro bill, but you're paying for these migrants to come in. And you're paying their checks, you're paying for their food, you're paying for their housing, you're paying for their electricity, and you can't afford your own electricity or food. What the hell are we doing? We manufacture nothing. We're held hostage here. We are completely dependent on everybody but ourselves. And a nation who cannot provide for itself cannot possibly call itself a nation. It's a basket case. We're watching everything our forefathers built be sold off to private corporations. And that's the whole plan. Something has to take the place of government, and business seems the obvious entity to do it. David Rockefeller. Now, your country is a corporation, but these boys are tired. They're sick and tired of playing the political game. They just want that curtain dropped. And that's what they're doing. Everything that we ever built in this country is being sold off. And your government will be the corporations, the international corporations. And you will have meters, and you will have cards, and they will give you an allotment instead of sending out a letter saying you use too much electricity compared to your neighbors. They won't send that out. You're going to get an e-card, and it's going to be loaded up each month with what they determine to be an adequate amount of food, clothing, electricity, water, determined by them, by the data that they've concocted, stating that you don't need this number of kilowatts per month, you need this amount, that's adequate. And if you go over that amount, obviously your card's empty. And then you're out of electricity. Because you were a bad grade school student and you used up your allowance before the end of the month. Don't come crying to me if you spend all your allowance before the end of the week or the end of the month. You know what your allowance is. Don't come crying to me, giving me excuses why you used up your allotment. And that's exactly where they're taking us. Now, if you got no problem with that, that's your problem. But the people have got to stop whining to these politicians, sending petitions to the politicians, going down to the Queen's Park or wherever it is you go with your little placards, whining and bitching to the one that caused you harm. Now, to cause harm is against the law. Deception is fraud. Breach of trust is fraud. Actually, breach of trust is treason. Now, why would you go down with a placard or send a petition to someone who's causing you harm and asking them not to cause you harm anymore? You've already been harmed. Why would you go down with placards and say, we need help, we need this? Well, these people breached the trust. They lied to you from the square one. And why would you go down and beg traitors and deceivers and fraudsters to come to your aid? That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no frickin' sense. But then we seem to be a rather senseless nation, don't we? That goes for the United States as well. It goes for Australia. It goes for Britain. We've been dumbed down to the point where we probably need an instruction book on how to pick our noses anymore. And we got to overcome that somehow. The only way we're going to overcome it is that those people who are not beaten so badly into the ground they can't think anymore, those people have a duty. Those people have a duty to speak to their friends and their neighbors and colleagues, to inform them, to get them some usable knowledge, to encourage them, to stop whining and complaining. Let's start doing something about it. This attitude that there's nothing we can do, we may as well jump off the cliff. Because if you believe there's nothing you can do, then guess what? You will do nothing. And that makes you part of the problem. Because those out there who say there's nothing we can do prop up this tyranny that is pushing us down. So you're as guilty as those you're complaining about. Probably more guilty. So we need to come to terms with this stuff. And we got to change this around. All I see is really, I look at the people who are my age, people I grew up with, and it scares the hell out of me. It really, truly does. We were all young one day, and we were all kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and when I run into old friends who are completely beat down, going to the doctors for their prescriptions, going to the hand that's beat them down, looking for help, it really saddens me. When I look at the young people today, that saddens the hell out of me. So those that know, it's one thing to know. It's another thing to do. Now I know there's lots of people out there with some good round knowledge of what's been going on here and what the overall plan is. But they don't want to voice anything in case, somebody looks at them crooked, or they might get in trouble, or such and such. Well, that don't cut it. You got a duty. If you know, then you need to speak up. And if you fail to speak up, you got to live with the knowledge that you know something, but you're afraid. I don't understand how anybody go through living a life like that. That's no life at all. When you're living in fear, and you allow fear to make your decisions for you, you're not much of a man or a woman. You're actually worse than the ones that don't know anything. Because you have usable knowledge and you're not sharing it with people. You know what's going on, and you're allowing these people to continue to put these stupid petitions out and go with these stupid placards, going to their abusers, asking for help, and you won't talk to these people to explain to them what's really behind all of this stuff. And that's a sad situation that needs to change. I'm hopeful, I think it's 18 days or something now till somewhere in there till the American election, an election of which no man or woman can participate in, an election that you have been sucked into believing that you're actually participating in an election, that these people that you are going to vote for actually are there to represent you. I mean, how simple can it be? These people all take an oath to the state. The state is a fictional entity. The one who votes is a fictional entity. There is absolutely no reality to be found in an election, not a legal election. The legal election is a complete and total fraud, designed specifically to subdue you, to hold you in bondage. So we'll see what happens in this one. It matters not who gets voted in. We know that. And I mean, nothing spelled it out more than that dinner for that first, I forget what his name is already, the first Catholic presidential nominee. All you had to do was look at that dinner. It was supposed to be a fundraiser for Catholic charities. Well, I don't think Kissinger's a Catholic. There are very few Catholics in there. There are a lot of very powerful people in there. And if somebody gets the guest list, would you kindly send it to me? Because I'd really like to know who all was in that room. Just kind of reminded me of a Bilderberger meeting, or a Bilderberg dinner, I guess. And they decide, they will assess the feeling they got, the feedback they got after these two ridiculous speeches from the presidential candidates. And then they'll make a decision. Not you won't make the decision, they will make the decision as to who is going to be the next president of the United States corporate. And who's going to run the business for the next 4 years, or who's going to be the front man for the business for the next 4 years. But none of it's good, none of it's proper, none of it's healthy, and the wars will continue, the harm will continue to you and your families until such time as you come to grips with the reality of the fact that you're living a fictional life. Until we get rid of this fiction, till we get rid of the fiction, you cannot have a nation or a real life. As long as your so-called representatives represent something other than you, we can't move forward. Nothing's going to change. So we need a clean house. Biggest scam that was ever created, and it's a brilliant scam. You know, it's a really brilliant scam, but it has to come to an end. You know, being a psychological and spiritual war, you know, you want to look at this as 1,000 years of freedom or 1,000 years of tyranny. Take your pick. Try running in the meadow. Now, a free man, woman, child could do that. Under tyranny, there will be a sign and a guard. Don't step here. This is nature. Or they'll have a walkway through or a viewing site of which you can give them some of your labor and coinage or fiat currency. But every aspect of your life is controlled. Or you can have freedom where you can do whatever the hell you want so long as you don't cause anyone any harm. Most people don't cause anybody any harm. The government, the corporation, on the other hand, causes everybody harm all the time. It's designed as a harm-causing institute. That's what they do. And if you think that they've got a lot of rules and regulations out there now, you just hang on and continue down this road and see where you're going to end up at. Their plan is to get us locked down so tight that we won't be able to push back. We can't allow them to get there. Because if they do get us there, it is going to be extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to push back. So it's incumbent upon everybody to start pushing back now. We have got to hold their feet to the fire. We have got to expose them publicly. Now, if that means putting posters up in your town with an explanation of what these people are up to, then do it. We have got to make their lives equally, hopefully, more uncomfortable than our lives are becoming. We have got to get in their faces. We have given them way too much slack, way too much maneuverability to do as they're being instructed by those who have nothing to do with your life other than trying to lock it down. So it's time we get on them hard, real hard. Now, Hydra report cards. Here's a porn star that accuses Donald Trump of offering $10,000 to come alone to the hotel. Justin Trudeau pelted by pumpkin seeds thrown by women protesting pipelines. Now, she just happened to be an NDE. She was a Green Party member, I think. Now, the Green Party denounced her for doing this. She shouldn't have done that, throwing pumpkin seeds at the Prime Minister, Tinkerbell Trudeau. And apparently, this lady went to the trouble of drawing little hearts on the pumpkin seeds. So I don't think she was trying to. I don't think anybody's ever been taken out by pumpkin seeds before. Could be wrong, but I don't have any recollection of anyone being taken out by a handful of pumpkin seeds. Anyways, a woman in Hamilton who threw pumpkin seeds at Tinkerbell Trudeau in Hamilton was detained for questioning after being tackled to the ground by security. Let's see, a woman threw some pumpkin seeds at some idiot who called himself the Prime Minister, and so security immediately tackled the woman to the ground. We're talking pumpkin seeds here, boys. You know, you couldn't have walked up to her and said, "Did you just throw pumpkin seeds at that dipshit we're guarding?" Yeah. What would you do that for? That would have been sufficient. But no, we want to tackle this woman to the ground because we're in the business of protecting the fraudsters and the treasonous dogs. And we have to jump on you and drive you into the ground, ma'am, not because we particularly wish to hurt you, but we need to send a message to other people who may consider throwing pumpkin seeds or a tomato or something. So that's why we have to drive you face into the ground. Trudeau is leaving City Hall after meeting with Mayor Fred Eisenberger when the woman hurled the seeds at him, shouting, "Keep your promises, you little twit." I had a little twit. She was immediately tackled to the ground by security as Trudeau's detail whisked him to his motorcade. The brave guy. The brave guy. I know if I was walking down the street or I was talking somewhere and somebody pitched some pumpkin seeds at me, I would expect my security team to jam that man or woman into the ground, and I would expect to be whisked away to safety. Because, well, you never know. They could have been atomic pumpkin seeds. Who knows? Anyways, earlier she had been holding a banner reading "No New Pipelines" with a man who identified himself as David Johnston. He said they want to know why Trudeau has not yet reformed the National Energy Board or shut down their proceedings. Johnston did not know why his fellow protester was carrying pumpkin seeds. RCMP officers took the woman into a meeting room at City Hall for questioning. But it's not clear if she faced charges. The RCMP directed further inquiries to Hamilton Police, who made the arrest. Hamilton Police did not immediately respond to a request or comment. Meanwhile, for 42 years, the RCMP has been abusing their own staff, and no one has been charged for the abuse, the assaults, and so forth that have taken place within the RCMP detachments. But a lady with some pumpkin seeds, whole different ball game. This broad's dangerous. Now, I believe she was a Green Party member, and the Green Party people are saying, you know, we don't condone throwing pumpkin seeds at the Prime Minister. Fact of the matter is, these people all work for the same team. And the sooner people understand that, the better. I don't know if they're even capable of understanding it, you know. This windmill nonsense, this renewable energy nonsense has been going on here for a long time. You know, the Liberals are to blame for all of this, not realizing, and I worked with these people for years, and I thought, you know, you people are really brain dead. You're really freaking brain dead. You're waiting, you want to vote for the Conservative Party who's going to fix the problem for you, even though the provincial Conservatives said that if they were elected, they would put more wind turbines in Ontario than the Liberals. In fact, that their plan was to put wind turbines in every small lake or every lake, even in cottage country, because the wind blows across lakes. It's the open part. And that they were actually going to install wind turbines by your cottage in the lake. But somehow, even when I put the election policy book in front of their faces, which states that specifically the Conservatives will put more wind in Ontario than the Liberals, it seems not to resonate with them. They wouldn't have done that. Well, that's what it says they're going to do if they're elected. Well, yeah, but they wouldn't have done that. So you're telling me they're lying in this thing? But then they're going to help you if you vote them in. So instead of grabbing the bull by the horns and dealing with this fraud that goes across all parties, they ignore reality and just say, well, the Liberals suck and we'll vote the Conservatives in, they'll fix everything. Wrong. But this is the little childlike mind. These are not the minds of men and women. These are not the minds of adults. These are the minds of whiny little children. Because they don't know how to stand up, because they've never been taught how to stand up. All they've ever been taught to from their earliest days of kindergarten is how to submit. That's all they ever know in this country, is how to submit to authority. As soon as somebody approaches somebody with the air of authority, the people in this country fold up like little children. It's all psychological. And it's a psychological war, and it's a spiritual war. We have to get our spirit back, and we have to overcome this psychological nonsense that was implied and put upon us. It was Brzezinski who said 2.5, 3 generations. We're going to mind screw these people so much they won't know which ends up. Appears they've accomplished it. So basically what we have to enter into here is a mass mental deprogramming program. And that's why I say the people that know and understand what's going on have a duty to go out and sit quietly with people or put some posters up in your town. We have to start the deprogramming process ASAP. And it's the most brilliant thing. Because these people who are beat into the ground, who look depressed, who look at the ground instead of looking up and smiling and saying, how you doing, beautiful day. And I'm sure lots of listeners have experienced this. I know I do. Walking down the street, and somebody's walking down the street, they've got earphones stuck in their ear or telephones stuck in their ear, totally oblivious to anything around them. They can't deal with reality. They like to deal in this little fictional world that they've immersed themselves in. But you see them and you smile and you say, hi, how are you? And it shocks the shit out of most people. They don't know how to read. Some of them, they go, it's nice, thanks, bye. That's how they keep people separated. You ever try to engage somebody in an intelligent conversation these days? It's spooky. But I have deprogrammed a couple of people, and that's freaky. Because in both cases, their eyes got really, really bright. It was like a switch went off in their head. And these were both people working in the, what would you call it? The renewable energy field. These were facilitators. These were people that believed that they were doing the right thing and that anybody that said anything else was a NIMBY or a problem or a conspiracy theorist. And they've been programmed to look out for people like me. If you can get them alone and get them into a conversation, and they'll tell you why you're wrong, but they don't have anything, just to accept that you're wrong. They have no real knowledge of anything. It's just they've been programmed to say these things. You just keep working at them nice and easy. And then all of a sudden, wham! I mean, it's freaky to watch those eyes light up like that. It's like, bang, they get it. And those people went from, no, you're all wrong, we got to do this, da-da-da-da, to when the light finally went off, just look very peacefully and go, this is all a fraud, isn't it? Bingo. Bingo. Now, they're immediately ostracized from the outfits they were working for the little cultists. Don't want anything to do with these people. So it's not a lot like Scientology or any other religion. That as long as you participate and do as you're told and believe what you're told, you're welcome into the cult. But once you see and once you know, and you go and try to explain it to your other members, you will find they want absolutely nothing to do with you anymore. And that's what happens. So we need to do this more often. We need to deprogram our counselors. We need to deprogram our police. We need to deprogram anybody we come across. We need to deprogram the students in particular. The younger, the better. And we have to rise up, basically, an army of intelligent, thinking adults, young adults, and children. We do not need guns, because this is not an armed conflict. It is a spiritual, psychological conflict. And those are the tools they use to subdue us, and those are the tools we need to use to free us. And don't tell me it can't be done. They use those same tools to do this to us. We can use the same tools to release them from us. And not only can it be done, it must be done. These are our lives, not their lives. We recognize our lives as being real. We recognize ourselves as being men and women. They do not. Because they don't have any authority over a man or a woman. They only have power over what they created, and they did not create men and women. They created fictional entities. That is the only power that they have over us, is tying us to that which they created. And we have to erase that. At which time they have no power. And then we can get on with our lives. We can get on with building a proper nation. We can get on with looking after our people. Can't even really use the word people, because when you look up the word people is the same as the word human, and they are both masks. They are both fictional entities. The language has been so screwed over that most people have no idea that the very language that they use commonly is the very language that they've screwed with and used to deceive us. and enslave us and subdue us. We must, once again, become what we are, and that is simply men and women. Anything else other than that is language used to deceive and gain advantage over the good men and women of these lands. And once enough people get it, and enough people stand up and explain it to these dicks who think they own your ass and that they can feed off of you, it's over. It's over. And then we can institute what it was that our forefathers left their homelands to get away from, was the tyranny. Our forefathers busted their tails trying to build us a new life in a new land to get away from the tyranny. They never realized that they never got away from it. They got suckered by the language. But now we know the truth. And we do know that our forefathers left their homelands to specifically get away from the tyranny, to seek out a new, free beginning. It's time that we complete their dreams, their wants for their families, a better life. And it's not that damn difficult. It really, truly isn't. But we do have to participate. You know, this idea, some days I get really sick of doing these shows because I question whether it's a good use of time. But by the time I get through a show, it's almost, there's all this stuff to be discussed. There's all this stuff to be discussed. There's new stuff coming out every day. And therefore, we will continue on. I know some days I may sound like some crazy freaking preacher or something. But I'm just trying to encourage people to stand up. Stand up. And, if everybody just stood up, and we know that's an impossibility, not everybody's going to stand up, but we don't need everybody to stand up. If you look at the percentage of the people that are implementing these changes upon us, they're handcuffing us to this international way of doing things. It's a very, very tiny percentage of the people. If we could encourage 10% of the people to grow a spine, it would be over. 10% of the people in the United States, that's over 30 million people. It doesn't take 30 million people to take the country back. It doesn't take 30 million people with brooms to sweep DC clean. It doesn't take 30 million people to go to the United Nations headquarters in New York City and vacate the place and arrest everybody in the damn place and turn it into housing for those less fortunate. It doesn't take 30 million people. And we can get into the minds of 10% of the people. And we can change this. The only thing that can possibly stop us from changing things for the better is not to become active. We're not mushrooms. We're men and we're women. We know what's right. You know, there's nothing more feared by a government than a reasonable man, a moral man, nothing. There's nothing the so-called government/corporation fears more than truth. Nothing. Truth is the enemy of the state. Well, the state is guilty of harming every man, woman, and child on these lands. And they fear the truth. The truth takes away their power and nullifies them. And that's what I think Shakespeare was thinking when he said, first, kill all the lawyers. I don't particularly think he meant kill them physically, although they did take a run at them pretty hard before the Magna Carta was signed, but then it was nullified by the lawyers immediately when they came back and said, well, it was signed under stress and duress, therefore the Magna Carta holds no weight. And that was used as a deceptive tool for a very, very long time. But the fact is, nothing scares the state more than truth, because they live a lie, and they've got us living a lie. And the only power over us is if we continue to believe their lies. So truth is like kryptonite to these guys. They can't deal with it. They can't back it down. All they can do is hopefully not too big a wave of truth comes at them so that they can call it out, call it conspiracy theory, call it this, call it that, call them crackers, whatever. So the general population goes, oh yeah, we better listen to the government. They know better than we do. There's nothing the state fears more than a wave of truth coming at them. And the bigger that wave, the less chance they have of surviving that wave, and they know it. It's not the people that should be scared, because it's actually the other side that's is a frightened party. They can hear, they can feel the rumblings across the lands. And as Rockefeller again said, our window of opportunity will only be open for a short period of time, and it's already begun to close. That's an admission of failure on their part, but it will only happen if we make it happen. Like I said so many times, if they get what they want, it's our fault, not their fault. They put together some brilliant, brilliant plans. They understand psychology. They understand spirituality. And they use these tools to their advantage. But we use the same tools, and we overpower them. And we can do this. We will not lose. We're not supposed to lose. We're supposed to stand up. We're supposed to get in their face. We're supposed to hold their feet to the fire. We are not supposed to grovel and beg our oppressors. We're supposed to stand tall and strong. And do what's right. And that is to make sure that our brothers and sisters are not held in servitude, which they are. Our job is to make sure that everyone is clothed, fed, housed, encouraged. We have to get back to growing, building, engineering what our people need in our nations, for our people, for our nations. This idea of internationalism is the destruction of the nation state. And if you do not have a nation that can and does provide what is needed by those living there, then you become a dependent state on something else or someone else. And that's exactly what they want. An independent nation is a strong nation. A dependent nation is a weak nation, inhabited by weak people, both spiritually and psychologically. Our nations, our people, not the legal sense of the word people. I mean, if you look at North America, we have a extremely small population. We have just almost a never-ending availability of resources. The United States, which is just a hair under the size of China, the population probably less than a third of the population of China. And we have people living under bridges. We have people who can't get medical care. We have people who aren't being fed properly. All of these resources are here. There's no excuse for anyone to be homeless in North America. There's no excuse for anyone to be hungry in North America. But yet we seem to be able, we have this capacity to turn a blind eye to those people less fortunate than us and say, well, they must have done something wrong to be in that position. We make excuses because we know the same thing could happen to us and we don't want to go there mentally. Therefore, we make excuses. Therefore, we look away and say they must have done something wrong. Well, you look at those homeless people. You look at those hungry people. You better start looking at them with a different set of eyes. Because the plan is basically to put you in the same situation. It's much easier to control someone who has nothing than it is to control independent men and women who have a strong spine and a strong mind. Drive the people down, and then, as they always have done, the government comes to tell you they're there to help you, when in fact they're the ones that put you in that position in the first place, them and their corporate buddies. And they do it for a reason. You know, there's an old Bob Dylan song, and I'm not a huge fan of Bob Dylan or any other celebrity, but there is a song, and I forgot, I had the name of it, now I forget it. It was, Masters of War, I guess was the name of the song. And it's actually not a bad song. The lyrics kind of suck in spots, but the general gist of it is that they build to destroy. And that's absolutely correct. That's what they do. They build, then they destroy. And each time they do that, it's to move the people to another place. Basically moving the cattle from an open field into the cattle gates to move them onto the trucks. In the field, they're fairly free, and then they just keep moving them down into the slots and into the chutes until it gets very narrow, and they're all crowded in there, and they can't go nowhere except where they want to put you. The new world. It's always about the new world. The old world is finished. We're finished with the old world, so we're going to destroy it, and then we're going to unfold a new world for you. In other words, these clowns are playing God. And they shuffle you around and make new rules and regulations for you, which is nothing more than a piece of paper in their eyes, because they don't recognize you. They cannot recognize you because they don't have any authority over you, the man or the woman. So they turned you into a fictional piece of paper where they can scribble whatever they want on that, and that changes the way you're going to exist. And why would we give anybody that much power? Sign here, sign here. Things will be great, just sign there. Each time you put your ink down, you've been enslaved further, entrapped further, deceived more, and we got to stop doing that. We have got, I'd like to see a school in every single town. Teaching people what they need to know. Every single school board is guilty of fraud. Every state government is guilty of fraud. The entire legal system is guilty of fraud. The religious systems are guilty of fraud, and so on and so forth. Because each and every one of them is designed to deceive you. Because, well, I had a really good teacher. No, you didn't. I mean, I did have that one teacher that told the class, believe nothing you ever, never believe anything you read, see, or hear until you personally verify it. Failure to do so opens your mind to accepting all manner of propaganda and outright lies as truth. Was a pretty good deal. But that same teacher was standing in the classroom teaching the shit that was in those textbooks. But at least she gave a heads up not to believe anything that she's telling us, that we should go and verify the information. Because if we fail to do so, then, well, that's your problem. And that's these people that are ruling the world. They write everything down. Hey, we told you. All you had to do was read it. Right? Well, the newspapers were telling me, the politicians were telling me that. Well, okay, but did you go and you verify the information? Because it's all written down. So you didn't do your due diligence, so you get what you deserve. And I'm sure that's why they write everything down. We told you. We told you exactly what the hell we're up to. but you didn't take the time. You listened to the newspapers, you listened to the school teachers, you listened to the preachers. You believed them, but you didn't go verify the information. We wrote down the real game here, but you didn't bother going looking at it. So you got exactly what you deserve. So what are you crying to us about? Stupid. And we really truly are stupid when you get right down to brass tacks. And you say, well, they made us stupid. Well, nobody can make you stupid. You accepted stupid. You thought stupid was normal. A lot of intelligent people who think they're intelligent are incredibly stupid. But they were taught a course somewhere that they're actually intelligent. Well, that just makes them more stupid than the average person. They didn't verify anything. So don't be stupid. They used to have this commercial when I was a little kid. I lived in the Ottawa Valley. They used to have these commercials on Sunday mornings, I think it was. It was, don't be a stoopy-doo. I don't know why I remember this. I was like 5 or 8 or something. I have no idea why I remember this. It just seemed ludicrous to me. It was these little commercials for kids. Don't be a stoopy-doo. So they would show someone that jumping on a bed. Some kids jumping on a bed. And then one of the kids jumps, another kid jumps. They get out of sync, and one kid goes flying into the wall. Bangs his head. And that was a stoopy-doo. You know, and they have some kid running around the house with scissors. And then they trip and fall. And that's don't be a stoopy-doo. Like, use your frickin' brain, I guess was the process there. Think before you do. Think before you act. Think before you say. Think before you believe something. Which just goes back to my teacher. You know, we got some really good radio hosts on here. And I want to thank Jules for doing what she does. She's been at this for a long, long time. And most of it's shoestring. But we got a pretty solid lineup for the most part here at UCY.tv. And, there's a lot of truth here. I've been on other networks, and it drives me nuts when I listen to some hosts. You just want to go and basically give them a pop in the head, like, shut up, right? There's still too many people out there playing the left-right game. There's still way too much disinformation out there on way too many radio shows. There's way too much ego going on too many of these online radio shows. So again, the listener, whether you're listening to mainstream or online, you have to discern what it is you're actually listening to, why what's being said is being said in the manner in which it's being said. Is there an alternative motive here? Ulterior motive? I mean, it's a minefield out here. An absolute minefield. So, again, the direction that I got from my teacher stands ground. Just because you hear something that you think resonates with your brain at a particular time, and therefore you say, oh, well, this must be on the up and up because I'm hearing what I wish to hear. That's accepting something, again, without verifying anything. Now, I certainly wouldn't consider myself to be a great radio host. I just do what I do and try to get the best information out I can. Try to encourage people to do their own research. Try to get people to think, be critical, I know it takes time, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And actually, it becomes a certain amount of fun. Because you're reading things you never knew anything about. You can read a newspaper article and it says, this expert says. Well, take that expert's name and follow it. Find out who this so-called expert is attached to. Find out what the real message of this expert is. And you might find that you no longer read anything the same way you read it before. Well, the expert says, well, who's the expert? Well, oh, this guy. So it says he's an expert. Is he? Well, it says he is. Well, did you go find out if he is? Well, no, because they said he is. So you're trusting this, what's written down here, you believe that. Did you verify it? Well, I don't have to because they said he's an expert. Well, that's stupid. So now you're trusting the newspaper. Well, it's a major newspaper, isn't it? Uh-huh. So you just trust that. The professor told us this in class the other day, really. Yes, he's been a professor for 25 years. He's very well respected. Is he? And he was telling you what again? Really? Did you bother to look into it? Why? He's the professor. You see how easily people are led astray? Now, I may be an odd duck, but I find it absolutely fascinating when I start running names. I mean, this is really quite a bit of fun to see who's attached to what and where they came from, where they went to school, what was that school teaching, who is that school attached to, why is that school there? It gets to be a lot of fun. And it's very interesting. And it certainly beats watching a corporate sporting event. It certainly beats watching the latest talk show. It certainly beats watching these corporate news talking heads. I mean, I never watch TV anymore, but when I'm at somebody's house and they got TV on, I swear to God that most of these women, and this is not being detrimental to women are fantastic. We wouldn't be here without women. But these talking heads they got on the newscasts and that look like a bunch of high-end hookers. Now, how could you take anything that come out of their mouths seriously? Especially when you can click around on the TV. Doesn't seem to matter what channel you go to at any particular day on any particular subject. As you click through, the talking heads on this channel are telling you the exact same thing the talking heads just told you on the last channel. You go to the next channel, same shit. Next day, different subject, same shit. Coming out of the same talking heads on different channels. Pick up newspapers, the same garbage is coming at you. Now, how can you waste your time involved? Why would you give them your mind and your time when their time is being used specifically to deceive you? Shut them off. Shut them off. Learn to read. Most people don't like to read. Most people were discouraged from reading in school. And that, again, was done on purpose. They would rather you watch TV or go to a movie or watch a sporting event than actually go and look into anything. You know, the first thing I would do if I was a teacher is I would teach the kids how to be researchers. I would teach the kids to hold my feet, the teacher, or my feet to the fire every single day. I would ask my students to challenge everything that comes out of my mouth. That's what a real teacher is. An authority is one that dismisses you for when you ask questions. An authority is one that encourages you not to ask questions, not to challenge them. That's an authority, and that's false. And these are deceivers. They're not teachers. We need teachers. And if you have a clue how to research, then you are by definition a teacher, because you are searching out truth. You are not there to deceive. It's not about your opinion. It's about what the facts state. I love Westerns, and I've watched one for a long time, but I love them old Westerns, where 12-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, 8-year-old kid, strangers come down the laneway, and you see the kid standing in the laneway with a shotgun or a rifle. You got business here? Now, I'm afraid there's strangers coming in the laneway. I don't know what to do. Should I phone the social worker, 911, or what the hell I do? That kid standing in the laneway asking, you got business here, is a man. Men were quite young back in the day. Children are quite old today. Most of the people in their 30s and 40s and 50s are still children. They ain't going to stand in the laneway. They ain't going to ask no hard questions. But that kid standing in that laneway was more a man than I would venture to guess 95% of what's wandering around call themselves as men today. This kid was more a man than any of these people. This kid was taught right from wrong. This kid was taught responsibility. This kid was taught to stand up for himself and his family. These people didn't have their hands out. They weren't writing petitions to governments. They weren't running around with stupid-ass little signs, little protest of dumbass children. It's time that we just get back to some realities. Learn to put one foot in front of the other. Learn to stand on the right side. Learn to say what we mean and mean what we say. I'm so sick of people saying, well, you better be careful what you say. You get in trouble. Huh? I better what? You better be careful what you say. You'll get in trouble. And this is all stuff that's put into people's minds. If you can't say what's on your mind, or you're fearful to say what's on your mind, and you're fearful to say what you mean, then you might as well went and got a lobotomy. Because you have no capacity left. You live in fear. And a man living in fear is no man at all. Might be a shell of a man, but certainly, most definitely, unequivocally, is not a man. Now, I'm not suggesting people go out and start hollering and screaming at everybody. That's not what men do. Men are cool and calm and collected. Put the cards on the table, say what they mean what they say, and deal with it. But see, that again is both spiritual and psychological. And these are the tools that we have at our disposal. And these are tools we need to learn how to use. And we start using the tools the way they're meant to be used, instead of allow them to be used against us. We take the tools and we use the tools to our advantage, to our family's advantage, to our neighborhood's advantage. And it won't be all that many years till we turn this upside down world right side up. And we toss this fictional nonsense that we've been subjected to, subdued by, abused by. Shake it off. It's gone. This is not what I planned on doing today, by the way, folks. I had a bunch of stuff I was going to talk about. Every now and again, I just get on a real long rant. And it helps me to think. It helps me to clarify things. And I just got to get it out of me every now and again. So that's what we did today. And hopefully some of it resonated with some people, that this is what we need to do. It's our responsibility. How this turns out is on our shoulders. And we're the responsible people, the party. We're the responsible ones. And we have to start acting like that, and we have to start to stand up, and we have to say what we mean and mean what we say. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Hal. Ron is on a rant. But I think I'm on a decent rant. And I mean, I can throw facts and figures out till the cows come home. And if people are just interested in facts and figures, you'll get those till you die. It's time to start moving on and get something accomplished. Anyways, that's about it for the show. We're back here Thursday night. Hal's on deck at 3 o'clock. One of these days, we're going to have a round table with a bunch of people, and I won't have to speak as much. I'm very interested in getting on board with Hal and some of the other guys. I think we could have a really good conversation. I'd like to meet these guys in a decent conversation. And so I look forward to that, and hopefully we can do that in the next few weeks. And I think it'll be interesting. I'll learn something, and everybody else should learn something. And it's all about, exchanging information, thought processes, and that all makes everybody stronger and more determined. And that's what we need, determination and strength. And we will win this thing. So I want to bid everybody adieu. Like I said, I'll be back here Tuesday night from 7 till 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank, I do want to thank Jewel. She deserves a lot of credit for this. I mean, she did put this together. It's got to be a pain to deal with it all the time. And apparently I'm bouncing in and out of here. So I didn't do it. Maybe the Pope's involved in this. Who knows? Anyways, let us make Election Day in the United States a holiday. Make it a voting holiday. No votes. They don't deserve any. That's the music. We're out of time. We're out of here. Everybody have yourselves a wonderful afternoon. I got some work I got to get done. Take care, everybody. Remember, Al's up and be there.
Social slime, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for the war.